Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for our first webinar Wednesday of the year with the Cook County Small Business Source Program. We're going to give everyone a minute to join us, and then we will get started. My name is Dominique Gamble. I'm the Senior Program Manager here in the Bureau of Economic Development. I am one of the managers that assists with managing the Cook County Small Business Source Program. And I will give you a quick overview of who we are and what we do briefly. Good morning, Miss Felicia. And then I'm going to hand it over to our lovely speakers. We have Ash Ryman. I hope I said that properly. If I didn't, please feel free to correct me. He is with Cook County's Procurement of Business, Enterprise, and Development department that we just started here in Cook County. I hope I said that right again. It's a new program. And then we have Mr. Brad McConnell, one of our wonderful BSO partners under the source, who is also a great what is your title? Are you the director of Allies Community Business,
I don't
Brad?
care about titles, but I'm the
Okay.
CEO.
He's a CEO. All right. And they do, he'll be our main speaker for a topic of a great opportunity for you all as we get started. So, Mercedes, you can let me know when the numbers look steady. We can get going. And
It
we
looks
welcome you all.
pretty. Yeah, thank you all for joining us today. We have a pretty good turnout here so far, so I think we're ready to kick it off.
All right, great job. Thank you. All right, again, good morning, everyone. My name is Dominique Gamble, Senior Program Manager of the Cook County Small Business Source Program. You are joining us for our January webinar Wednesday. And just give you a brief overview if you have not heard of the Cook County Small Business Program. We've been in I guess we've been implemented since the last 4 years. It's a program that was developed out of the need of COVID for small businesses who needed at that time funding opportunities to keep their businesses going. We have since evolved into providing free resources and free events and services to small businesses throughout Cook County. Those free services come by way of direct coaching, one-on-one coaching with wonderful support, BSO support organizations and advisors like Allies. Women's Business Development Organization, Chicago Urban League, Chicago Minority Supplier, just a few. I'm not going to name. We have 13 organizations that assist us in that space. We also have 40 plus referral partner organizations who help direct businesses. So you can go to your local chambers if you need additional assistance. They probably are partners with us and can directly direct you to us for any assistance that you need. So I'll say the Cook County Small Business Source is a one-stop shop. We do all things business. We have free cohorts, free webinars like you are attending today, free trainings, whether it's marketing, taxes, whatever your small business need, we are here to assist you. And with that, I do apologize for any background knowledge noise that you're hearing. We just had a wonderful event end, and everyone is willing to join us and jump in. So I thank you all for that. And I am going to, with that, pass it over to Mr. Ash Ryan. And if you have any additional questions on the Cook County Small Business Source, feel free to check out our website at www.cookcountysmallbiz, that's biz.org. Again, that's cookcountysmallbiz.org. You can check out our website, gain more information, and even complete an intake form if you would like to sign up for coaching. Check out our events page to see what we're hosting for the month, and so on. So thank you all so much. And with that, I am going to direct it to you, Ash. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Domini, and good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here today. And thank you, Bureau of Economic Development, for putting this event together. I'm going to go ahead and share some of my slides. Can you see you guys?
It's taking a moment to load. I see. Yes, there we are.
Awesome. Great. Again, good morning, everyone. My name is Ash Ryman. I am the Associate Director for within the Business Enterprise Development, and we all fall under the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer for Government of Cook County. I lead the division of the Strategic Initiative, where we engage other agencies discussing future policy engagement and outreach events. I'm going to briefly give an an overview of the OCPO framework. It's a very lengthy process, but we'll try and condense and make it digestible within the next few slides. So I'm going to read off the slides directly. The Office of the Chief Procurement Officer manages the Cook County purchasing process from solicitation through basically contract lifecycle. Award, solicitation, bidding process, and evaluation. The business enterprise development, which is the unit within the OCPO, we strictly a unit under the OCPO that supports vendor participation, certification, and utilization tracking. Basically, we manage the supplier diversity program and align that with the mission and vision of the Madam President of Cook County. Together, the OCPO and the BED, we ensure compliant, competitive, and efficient procurement process while expanding access to opportunities, specifically focusing within the supplier diversity program, which is women, minority, veteran, and etc. The Office of the Chief Procurement Officer, the mission of the office is to provide an open and transparent procurement process that, sorry, something is not working. Okay. Promotes maximum competition, deliver procurement opportunities to our communities, implementing efficient procurement practices, and leverage the county's overall resources to achieve the best value and quality for its citizens. The Cook County, in any procurement system, the acquisition and the bidding mechanism is governed by rules and regulation. There are certain rules apply to the federal government. In Cook County, we govern the procurement process, operate daily according to the Chapter 34, Article 4 of the Cook County Code of Ordinance. And I put a link there, and I will send these slides with you, Mercedes, so you can share it with the audience. The responsibility of the OCPO is responsible to procuring commodities, construction services necessary for daily operations of the Cook County government, excluding Cook County sister agencies. There's a list. I'm going to go through, just briefly give some examples. The agencies, most of the offices under the president, we procure for these user agencies. There's other agencies, we call them the sister agencies, and I put a list here. Click hyperlink to look for it. We do not procure for them directly. They control their procurement process, but they do make announcement within the portal of that we utilize, which is called Bonfire. And I will gonna touch base on that soon. Within my unit, we have 3 divisions. I lead the strategic initiative division. We have also compliance division and also certification. The mission of the unit of the business enterprise development is to increase the pool of qualified and diverse vendors who are in position to participate in the Cook County contracting opportunities and activities. The certification division, verifying the business qualify as an MBE, WBE, VBE, SD, VBE, and person with disabilities. The compliance division, we monitor contracts to ensure prime contractors meet their diversity goals and obligation. For prime contractors, we look at the size of these contracts. If it's too big, sometimes if it's too small, based on that, the compliance division within the BED determine the percentage of the utilization plan. Utilization plan, it means how much size of that contract will go to small businesses, simply. The strategic initiatives division, which I lead, in addition to the outreach and engagement, we collaborate with policymakers and leadership within the Cook County government to advance and scale Cook County supplier diversity framework and long-term vendor capacity building. How we procure? Well, user agencies, they submit an intake form for requisitions and identifies the need and submit the intake form request to the OCPO directly through the Bonfire system. The Bonfire is the main platform for procurement under the OCPO. Solicitations, OCPO publish the opportunity, receive these intakes, and they make the announcement. We primarily solicit opportunities as an invitation for bidding, request for a proposal, or request for a qualification. When the vendors submit their proposals, we do the evaluation process. We review for compliance. We review for price schedules and qualifications, and we pick up the closely match and we send it to the next stage of the to the committee to make the final pickup list. Then we announce the award, contract approval, and we start the performance, services delivery, and payment. We have two different types of acquisition mechanism. We have competitive solicitation, which I mentioned earlier, the IFB, the RFP, and the RFQ. And we have the non-competitive solicitation, which is sole source, emergency contracts, reference agreement, piggyback, and joint procurement. These are the list could there's an extensive explanation on the county website. If you want to learn more about these competitive and non-competitive solicitation, please go ahead and check the county website OCPO section. Again, who we purchase for? All the offices under the president's sheriff's office. This is only a sample of the list of the agencies where we procure for, and the list of all the elected officials. Things we purchase: primarily goods and professional services. This is a brief list of the commodities, professional services we regularly procure, and we regularly monitor and publish all the data in relation to the contract awards and amendments in the Cook County website through the open data portal. This is a short list: food products, paper goods and supplies, medical supplies, professional services, landscaping, project managing. We do a lot of consulting services, contract. We purchase vehicle, pretty much everything. Whatever the need of the Cook County's user agencies, we make sure that we're going to deliver efficiently and effectively for them. How to engage with the OCPO? Your first step is to register with Bonfire Vendor Portal, and I put a link there as well. And once you register with the system, I strongly advise all vendors, primes, and subcontractors, whenever the FY26 buying plan is ready and published, additional to the user guide, to check these forecasts and position their businesses early in the process according to their capabilities. You register with the Bonfire Vendor Portal. You download the solicitation that is aligned strategically with your mission and vision and core capabilities as a business. And then you set up your profile within that portal vendor and set it up in a way to receive any announcements, alerts, and advertise solicitation directly to your inbox. You pick up the right that is good fit for you, and then you put together a proposal and submit through the Bonfire system. There is the other system that I mentioned earlier. It's called B2G Now. The B2G Now is the system that the Business Enterprise Development Unit within the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer is responsible for to manage the county's MWBE program, certifying firms and monitoring the utilization plan on county's contracts. The OCPO vendor database, Bonfire, is the separate platform from the MWBE B2G Now that is managed by the Business Enterprise. This is strictly managed by the Business Enterprise Development for compliance. Registration in one system does not automatically include you in the other. Vendor registration in the B2G Now system are strongly encouraged to register in Bonfire as well in order to receive notices of the OCPO contract opportunities. View these opportunities, download solicitation, view the list of firms that have downloaded the solicitation, and submit response to any solicitation. I often get asked by a small vendor community, how can we connect to prime contractors? This is how you connect to prime contractors. Once you download the solicitation that you feel it's the good fit for your business, you actually could be able as well to see whoever downloaded that solicitation as well, other competitors in the market, and gauge the marketplace if there is a room for your business to participate and contribute. And then from there, you can reach out directly to these vendors in case you're exploring any prime subcontractors, joint ventures, or any other types of partnership. these a brief list of QR code that's going to be very useful to use. Our lovely lead program manager, Miss Sabrina Jackson, put together for us. I appreciate that and thank her. And this is my contact information. This is the generic email address. Anyone with any inquiries can reach out and send an email, and we will try to do our best to respond in a promptly time. And with that, I conclude my presentation and I hand it back to you, Damni and Mercedes. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ash. That was such a wonderful presentation, very insightful. I think I took a lot of notes myself. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Brad McConnell of Allies for Community Business, our lead speaker and presenter for today. Thank you, Brad.
Dominique, thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here with everybody and looking forward to this conversation about revenue-based financing. So I'll start sharing my screen here. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to spend 3 minutes providing some context for you as to how revenue-based financing as an offering fits into the rest of the things that A4CB can do for your business. And then we're going to get into a lot of detail about the way that this offering works in practice. I want to save as much time as possible for questions at the end so that then as you're absorbing what is a little bit of a complicated offering here, you've got time to be able to use the chat and the Q&A in order to ask those questions. But know that this is being recorded. This presentation is going to be distributed after the discussion for everybody who signed up. So you don't need to memorize all this stuff by any means. Most importantly, I'm going to jump to the end and then come back to the beginning. At the end of this presentation, you're going to see the way in which you can sign up for a free discussion with one of A4CB's community lenders to talk through your specific situation and how you would like to grow your business and how A4CB might help. That's coming. But before we get to that, let's talk about, first of all, who is A4CB? Who are these people they're talking to you today? So we've got a very clear mission, vision and mission. Just know that A4CB is a nonprofit community development financial institution based on the west side of Chicago. We're here at the corner of Lake and Kedzie at the Hatchery, which is a food and beverage incubator we co-own and co-operate. We're not talking about food and beverage specifically today. We're talking about broad financing, but we provide the capital and the coaching and the connections, all three that entrepreneurs need in order to grow great businesses that create jobs and wealth in our communities. And part of what we're going to talk about here is specifically the capital part, but the coaching and actions come in here, and we'll kind of get to that in due time. We provided $800 million since the pandemic began in 2020 to over 36,000 entrepreneurs throughout the states of Illinois and Indiana. About 70% of that is within Cook County, and about 25,000 businesses we provide free coaching to outside of the capital that we provide. So again, we'll talk about how those things integrate as we go. So the loans that we provide are between $500 and $500,000. And that clearly is a very wide range depending on what entrepreneurs are trying to do, how long entrepreneurs have been in business, and so forth. We also provide grants. I'm going to highlight that here for you, even though we're spending most of the time here talking about debt, because at a4cb.org/grants, we post anytime there is an opportunity for somebody to be able to get access to free money. We love giving away free money whenever we get the chance. And whenever we get an opportunity with a partner to be able to pass through those dollars, we will do that. So do keep that in mind as we go. But for the rest of the time here, we're going to talk about loans. So I'm going to talk broadly about the loans that A4CB has and how we approach this. And then we're going to talk very specifically about the three types. And after that, we're going to dive in for the rest of the time about one of those types, which is revenue-based financing. So principally, we do not use credit scores at A4CB. We don't put liens on your house or your car unless you're looking for over $250,000. What we look at is how well you've managed your debts over the last 2 years, and do you have plausibly enough cash to be able to repay us? That's it. And we do all of that algorithmically and electronically. We'll talk about specifically how that works in a little bit. So we make it as fast as possible, as easy as possible for you to both understand up front what it is that we're asking, and then beyond that, to be able to figure out for yourself before you even apply, what would I be eligible for, and how much, and what would that cost? So we're trying to be transparent and be present for you so you don't have to waste a whole bunch of time wondering about through an application process, review process. Are you guys going to help me or not? Like we're trying to keep this real fast and tight. We are quite happy to work with people who don't have perfect credit histories, quite happy to work with I-10s, all sorts of different things. We do want to be fast, as I mentioned, and transparent. And so in each case, when somebody applies, we will tell you what our estimated annual percentage rate would be for you. And that is going to depend on what it is you're looking for. And we'll talk about like how that works in practice as we go. Roughly speaking, our loans start with a 3-year term, but we can scale that all the way from 12 months to 6 years, depending on what it is you're trying to do. So all of this is a4cb.org/loans if you want to get into more detail. So that's kind of the big picture here. To be more precise, there are 3 types of loans that A4CB provides: term loans, lines of credit, and revenue-based financing. So before we dive in for this presentation to talk about revenue-based financing, just for context, know that we provide term loans, which are roughly analogous to the way a mortgage works. You get all the money up front and you pay a fixed amount every single month all the way until the end. Lines of credit, you only draw what you need, roughly analogous to a credit card, and then you repay on only what you're using. And therefore, that is quite distinct from a term loan. And so you can think about having a term loan where you're buying a piece of equipment where you have the fixed depreciation cost every single month. Well, term loans align with that pretty nicely, so your expenses are going to be fixed as well. If you've got like short-term temporary opportunities you want to take on, we need to bring in additional people, additional working capital as your requirement, then lines of credit are smart for that. Revenue-based financing is different. Revenue-based financing is appropriate for situations in which you have a long-term growth opportunity for which you need relatively significant amount of money up front, but it's not clear at the moment whether it's going to be sort of revenue generating this idea in a formalized fixed way over time. You think that the revenues are going to bounce up and down quite a bit. So revenue-based financing is designed to help entrepreneurs like that, where if the revenues are great one month, you pay more. If the revenues are not great the next month, you pay less. And we're trying to align the amount of money that's going out with the amount of money that's coming in. And that helps you with your cash flow. So that's kind of the difference between how term loans, lines of credit, and revenue-based financing work in broad terms. All right, let's talk now specifically about how revenue-based financing works. So first off, the design here is focused on businesses who have already established themselves and are now ready for growth. I draw the distinction because we're eager to help people who have nothing more than an idea, pure startups. We can absolutely help you with that. Those loan amounts are going to be less, obviously, because there's less track record of the business. There might not be any track record of the business. But for the most part, it's going to be more appropriate to have either term loan or line of credit for those startup businesses. Revenue-based financing is for those who are more established. We do not require a fixed repayment amount. I'll state this several times throughout. That's the whole point. So you can think about this in a way that it's like equity-like almost, without you giving up any of the long-term upside. So we aren't taking a piece of your business. You're not sharing any of your ownership. This is debt, not equity, but it is flexible in the amount of money that you pay over time, and that's the key difference. Now, to be clear, with that kind of flexibility for you comes a little additional complexity about how we work out what is going to be appropriate for you. So I'm going to go through some of that complexity while trying to keep it as simple as possible. But let's just recognize in the beginning that by design, there's a lot more going on here than it is with a more simple term loan or line of credit. So let's get into some of those specifics. Okay, so we're going to start with what's this thing cost and what are my collateral requirements? And then we're going to go into sizing and the more detailed eligibility requirements in due time. Okay, so the APR is going to be somewhere between 5.2% and high 19%. Now, the reason why I can't tell you exactly what the APR is going to be is because of the fact that you're going to be repaying variably over time, and therefore, we don't have a specific term to use to tell you definitively what the APR is going to be. Let me highlight, first of all, that we believe very strongly at A4CB that disclosing an annual percentage rate for every loan is absolutely essential to be a good lender. And as a side point, but an important one, we are part of a coalition at A4CB with a whole bunch of other organizations who are trying through Springfield to enact an APR for all. The idea here is that unlike for consumers, where any lender who's trying to lend to an individual, you must disclose APR. There are no exceptions to that. That's a nationwide requirement, has been for 60 years. There's no such similar protection for small business owners. People can make up whatever kind of rates and terms they want and put it in front of you and pretend like that's an interest rate or an APR, and it's not. So we're going to always, as a mission-focused lender, tell you what the APR is before you ever start to get into loan documents and the details of what it is you'd be signing up to. But it's going to be an estimate in the case of revenue-based financing because APR requires knowing how many months is it going to take you to repay. And we're not going to know that together because you might repay faster, you might pay slower based on how things go in your business. That's the design. So it's going to be an estimate. It's going to be in that range. Okay. Now, the repayment amount is always going to be 25% of what you borrow. How long that takes, how flexibly you repay that, that's going to be entirely dependent upon how your business is doing. We'll have a monthly payment, 15th of the month. We'll draw the appropriate amount. Now, there's always going to be a minimum and a maximum every month. Even if you have no revenue whatsoever, it'll be $100 to pay. If you make $1 zillion in 1 month and you're absolutely killing it, we're not going to take like the normal percent of that amount. We have a cap so that you keep most of that money. But nonetheless, like it's obviously going to go up and down depending on how you're doing in a particular month. Got 3% commitment fee. The balance due, if you decide to prepay, you can do that anytime you want. There's no fee whatsoever to prepay if you decide you've got plenty of cash and you want to just get through the debt. Just know that a lot of the alternatives in the marketplace, they look easy, they look free, they sound like they are not free, but they sound like they are relatively cheap. Most of those are really, really expensive because they don't disclose the APR properly. And many of those charge you a penalty payment if you decide to prepay before you're supposed to. We do not do that. Now, just know that if we have a, say, 5-year term that we put on the revenue-based financing offering, that if there's an amount that's left because you didn't grow in the way that you expected to, that's okay. At the end of that term, we're going to take whatever that residual amount is that you owe, and we're going to create a straight, normal 3-year fully amortizing term loan after that to allow you to have 36 more months to be able to repay that remaining balance in a fixed way. And so there's a long time you're going to get in order to repay this back. And again, we don't take personal collateral unless you're looking for over $250,000. We put a sort of a blanket UCC on, like all lenders do, on the business assets, but that's it. Okay, so that's cost and collateral. Now, nobody said there'd be math here. There's going to be math here. So let's talk through some specifics so you can really think through, all right, what are the options here? What does this mean for me? Okay, let's start with this. We ask through looking at your most recent yearly financials, looking the year backwards, what's your net profit been? Now, to be clear, net profit here in this context is the take-home pay, like the net income that you generated in the previous year, divided by the revenues you took. So if you've got 5% net income, meaning like you have profit, which is about 5% of your revenues from the previous year, then in that case, we're going to establish for you that your monthly repayment amount of future revenues each month is going to be 5% of the revenues you generate each month. And that's how you're going to get to full repayment. That's going to probably take you about 72 months to repay. Now, separately, if you're healthier with your profit margins, all the way to the right of that first chart, if you're earning in the previous year 7% of revenues, that means you've got more margin there. You got more spread. Like that's a healthier business with respect to profits. Our expectation is that you can be able to repay faster. And so in that case, you're going to be looking at not a 72-month repayment, but a 60-month repayment because we'll have 7% of your revenues coming out each month because you can afford it. And why wouldn't you pay faster if you can? And then we've got sort of the 6% net profit margin will be sitting in between. The reason why I go through that is because what we're trying to do here is from the beginning, look at the health of your margins, look at the health of your profitability, and structure something for you that is most appropriate for your business if we assume for a moment that that same margin will continue over time. And we've learned, frankly, over the last year and a half of making revenue-based financing offerings, that this flexibility is something entrepreneurs have asked us a lot for, and therefore we want to be able to provide it depending on that profit margin. Okay, so that's the first set of math. So the second set of math is, well, what's the APR going to be if I end up having certain sort of speed of repayment because certain speed of revenue growth. So let's say, for example, in all three of these examples you have in the bottom half of the chart, that these are all for $100,000 revenue-based financing loan. So if after that, your average monthly revenue that your business is generating is above 112K per year, or sorry, per month rather, which means that you're doing, $1 million, then you're going to repay this thing in 16 months. And because you're repaying it so fast, that implies that your APR will be 19.5%. Now, in all of these examples, you're paying the exact same amount. You're paying $25,000 on a $100,000 loan. The APR calculates out as higher because of the fact that you're going to pay it faster. That's the way the calculation works. In the alternative, all the way to the right there, if you're doing more like $30,000 a month in revenues, and therefore you're doing about $360,000 in revenues for the year, that's going to take you a lot longer to repay. It's going to take you 5 years. The APR on that is going to be a little over 5%. So the amount you're paying back is the same. The APR is different because the term is a really influential element of the APR calculation. So that's the end of the math. The top half and the bottom half are two different ways to think about how we evaluate how we will structure a loan in the first place. And then after that, how we will calculate how much you're going to be repaying and how fast, and what the APR implied is after the fact, after you borrowed. So keep those two things generally conceptually in mind. Even the specifics of that, you don't need to worry about because we're going to obviously work closely with you throughout the process. Okay, that was the most complicated thing we're going to talk about. Let's talk about sizing. So what we're trying to do here is to make sure that you are going to take from us in the form of this loan an amount that's appropriate to the size of your business. So what we're going to do here is first of all ask you what you're trying to achieve and how much capital you would like to have. And then the maximum amount that we will be lending will be a third of your previous year's revenues, up to $500,000. And we're doing this because if you've got revenues of, $100,000, say, and you're looking for $1 million, you're going to really struggle to repay that. And we do not want to give anybody more money than they're going to be plausibly able to repay because that doesn't do anything for you. That makes you end up sort of having your credit harmed, and we don't put you in that situation. We want to size this appropriately for your business so that you can absorb that capital effectively, use it to grow, and not overpay in your repayments to us. So for those who we haven't met, don't know anything about, we're going to be interested in lending up to 100,000. For those we do have, at least for partner purposes, bank referral partner, we're extending this to community partners, public partners like the county, for example. Those folks will be eligible for up to 250,000. And if we've already worked with you in the past through either our lending or our free coaching, those folks, you're going to be eligible for up to $500,000. We'll work with you on that as we kind of see an application from you. Okay, so that's how we think about how much you'll be eligible for in the beginning. So for who is eligible in the first place, these are the kind of basics here. And this is on top of how we think about eligibility altogether. Again, every single word of our credit policy is at a4cba.org/loans. And so anybody who would like to can figure out for yourself exactly what it is that you need to do in order to be eligible, and are you eligible, and also for how much. So again, no need to memorize all this because it's all on our site. But just broadly speaking, we're looking for people who have generated in the past year $250,000 or more in revenues, and you have at least 2 years of business bank transaction history for us to evaluate. And we're going to do a live connection to your bank account through a widget that we use where all you have to do is put in ID password. We get read-only access to pull that data for you, so you don't have to upload 24 bank statements. My God, that'd be miserable. We're gonna do all that work for you. We do a credit check. We don't care about your credit score because that's got a whole bunch of noise in it that we don't care about. There are specific things we are looking for that we pull electronically. You click a button and we do all the work for you to go get that data on your behalf. We're looking for people who have some payment history over the last 12 months. And we've got at least one open trade line where we can see that you've got good habits and you've paid each month over that 12-month period. You paid on time for all that. Now, importantly, we're going to work with each person who's interested in this in order to create a business growth plan. So we don't want to get anybody in a situation in which you have a kind of a rough notion of what you're going to do. You take a whole bunch of money they have to repay, but you don't really have a growth plan worked out. We're going to work with you. This is all free to provide for you. We're going to work with you to create a growth plan where you work with us to get a solid estimate for what it is you're trying to do, of course, but then what should your revenues be over particularly the next year, but we're going to extrapolate that out for the entirety of the 3, 4, 5, 6 year term, depending on how long the loan ends up being based on what you need. And so the idea here is that we'll have something to go back to as a baseline to see how you're doing and whether or not your sort of expectations are being met. And if they aren't being met, what can we do to help? That's all free coaching. Again, we'll provide as much coaching as you would like through our expert business coaches we have on staff for as long as you like to work with us, inside and outside of the repayment of a revenue-based financing loan. And then we do have gross margin, net margin requirements, which we've already talked about. Okay, so what's all that mean in practice? Well, let me highlight Monica's story. So Monica Abernathy has been working with A4CB for a long time. She was a graduate of our Neighbor Entrepreneurship Lab, which we describe at A4CB.org as well. She has taken out term loans before in order to build her business. But she had a really interesting opportunity in 2024 in order to grow her business. She had both a chance to pretty dramatically improve her space that she uses on the South Side, and also had an opportunity to extend into the kind of consumer packaged goods space, where instead of doing hair and nails just on site, she had a lot of products that she was also selling that people like. And so you can get things on shelves in a way that is able to extend her revenues and her profits, even when she doesn't have to be physically present. So revenue-based financing was a good fit for her because she could use those dollars in order to accelerate that growth plan, and she's now using those really effectively, at least in my opinion, anyway. So again, like all this stuff gets real technical, real detailed, real fast, but it's about the people that we're trying to serve here, and Monica is one of many, many, many we're delighted to have served in this way. Okay, so if you're interested after all that, what do you got to do? Here's how it works. First and foremost, we want you to meet with an A4CB community lender. Again, these conversations are completely free. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in just a second. In that conversation, we're going to ask you to provide us with a previous year's P&L statement so that we can work with you to calculate those gross and net margins, so revenues and then profits. And we're going to do that in order to check those eligibility requirements that I just mentioned a minute ago, and also help you to create your growth plan. So that not only do we understand what your past year has been like, but we also understand where you're trying to go. And if you have any questions about that, obviously that's the perfect time for us to work together in order to think that through. So if we determine based on that evaluation of your 12-month P&L and we think your growth plan is really good, then we'll ask you to apply. And in that, it's going to be something like about 10, 15 minutes, depending on how fast you get through the typing. It's short because we're basically asking you to authorize us to do things on your behalf rather than asking you to do a whole bunch of document uploads or whatever. We then will follow up immediately with you in order to make sure that you have all of your questions answered and how we're going to proceed from here. So that's kind of the steps on how it works. And to get started, there's the QR code to get onto a calendar. You pick whatever time you would like to meet with us that is available on that calendar that is sort of the other end of that link. And at that time, we will again talk through all of this detail with you, whatever you would like in order to fill in all the blanks. And in addition to that, start that process of looking at your previous 12-month P&L and start the process of creating your growth plan. We will work with you as quickly as you're ready to, or as slowly as you would like. And our community lenders are here to help. In the beginning, we'll have the community lenders assigned to you in that upfront process all the way through the disbursement of the loan. And then after that, we will also assign a dedicated A4CB business coach thereafter. So that business coach will meet with you on a quarterly basis, quick check-ins to make sure that if there's anything we can do to be helpful, we're there for you. Any problems you're having with either repayment or your business more broadly, we're there to help. And further, we can start looking at how you're doing against the A4CB growth plan that you worked with us to create with respect to your revenue growth. And if the revenues are growing as you expected, great. And if they're not, let's talk through what we might be able to do to help. So that's how things go next. If you have any specific questions, that rbf@a4cb.org email address is an easy way to crank out notes to us so we can get back to you really quickly on. But you put all that together, and I hope that that is a helpful way for you to kind of think through how to start. Okay, let's stop sharing there. And let's go to questions, shall we?
Yes. So we had a few questions come through our Q&A and a few in the chat. I'll field the Q&A question first. Anonymous is asking, what are the requirements for new startups to access revenue-based financing?
So for a business that's just getting started and you lack that 2 years of business bank account activity, and that we obviously would also lack the 12 months of the prior year P&L, we're going to work with you not necessarily through revenue-based financing, but rather through our term loans and our lines of credit in order to get your business started. Once you're able to absorb that capital and use it really effectively in order to grow your business, then after you have that history and you are an established business and now you're using essentially that strong base from which to start to grow because you've got that experience, then from there, I'd be delighted to talk with you about after successfully repaying that initial capital, again, term loan or line of credit. From there, we'll then start talking about the larger growth capital that revenue financing might be able to provide in a different structure.
Perfect. I'm going to jump over to the chat here now. Erica asked in the chat, can you please repeat the definition of net profit and how that's used to determine that percentage?
Absolutely. So the net profit is your net income divided by your total revenues. And what we're trying to get at here is what proportion of the income you're bringing in, the revenues you're bringing in, are you able to keep because it exceeds the expenses, right? So revenue is the denominator. The difference between revenue and expenses is the numerator. And that difference between revenue and expenses, that's your take-home pay, that's your profit. So what we're doing is creating a ratio there that compares profit to overall revenues.
We actually had some follow-up questions that came up on net profit in the Q&A, so I'll take us back there. Jim is asking, is depreciation added back for the net profit calculation?
That's a really good question. So we're looking at all-in profit. And there are obviously a big distinction if you're thinking about your business and your cash flow between the cash-based items, which are expenses, that means dollars out the door, versus non-cash items like depreciation, amortization, which absolutely hit your expenses, but you don't have to have cash out the door in order to cover those expenses. Those are book expenses. We're looking at your global margin because we know that the depreciation expenses are influential in how your business will be able to grow over time because it's depreciation an asset. So that's important. But it's a really interesting distinction with respect to overall cash flow management. We will calculate net profit rather on the entirety of your expenses.
Another follow-up question on the net income. Anonymous is asking if your net income is not good in the most recent year, but previous years was a bit more stable or solid, is that addressed?
Really good question. So generally speaking, for a business in the last 12 months where the net profit margin is very, very tight, it's unlikely that that's going to be a moment in which you can absorb a whole lot of additional capital and immediately use that to grow really smartly. So what we'd recommend in cases like that is that if you need capital, use working capital, use a line of credit, or if you're trying to buy a piece of equipment or whatever it is that's some sort of fixed asset or something like that, then do a term loan. Use those dollars in order to increase your margin so that then when your margin is healthier, you're in a better position to grow. It's just really hard to grow on a very, very thin margin. Like that's hard. That's really hard for any business of any size. And therefore, we'd recommend against low margin businesses trying to grow through flexible revenue-based financing. So we'll work with you on that. And again, we've got flexible options with respect to capital, but we do want to make sure that we're investing for revenue-based financing purposes into businesses that have at least that 5% net profit margin in the previous 12 months, because that is the platform for successful growth.
One more question on revenue-based financing before I think we turn a bit more global questions. Jim in the chat is asking, is there a commitment fee paid, anything that is required up front?
So we have a 3% commitment fee that is part of securing the original capital. That is, of course, included in the overall APR calculation. And we are open to discussions about whether that commitment fee should be cash at the table or sort of rolled into the loan. We recommend that we don't roll that into a loan because that just costs you more. And so we think that's a kind of smart down payment in almost all cases. So that's a really important component of thinking through the overall cash flow impact of a revenue-based financing borrowing situation. And yes, the amount will always be 3%.
Cool. Next, I'm going to go a little bit zoomed out from revenue-based financing, but a few additional questions that we received in the chat and Q&A here. Eunice in the chat asked, how do programs from Allies for Community Business or for Allies for Community Business apply to individuals with ITIN numbers?
We are completely agnostic as to whether you have a social security number, an I-10, using your driver's license, or not, whatever. So every single thing that I said there throughout the entirety of this presentation is available to people who are working on I-10s just as much as if they're not. I should say, while we're at it, everything that we do is available either in English or Spanish. And we have both community lenders and business coaches who will work with you in either language, whatever your preference. Those
Perfect.
aren't the same thing, obviously, but in some cases they're related.
Going back to the chat here, Jorge is asking kind of generally about revenue-based financing, but also about loans and lines of credits. Could that be utilized for the City of Chicago's SBIF program?
It's a really good question. So the SBIF program is the small, shouldn't even started that, small business, investment fund.
Improvement finance.
Improve?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Small Business Improvement Fund. God, yeah. I've only been around this program for like 15 years now. You'd think I'd remember the acronym. Um, Absolutely. So whether you're talking about SPIF or TIF or NOF, like the whole cavalcade of acronyms for publicly available dollars, which are only provided to an entrepreneur upon reimbursement. In all of those cases, an entrepreneur's got to come up with the money up front. You got to float all that. And that's really hard for a lot of entrepreneurs to do for obvious reasons, because most entrepreneurs that we work with, most entrepreneurs I've ever met, don't have piles of cash laying around. If they did, they'd be investing them in their business already. So we do a lot of what functions as front funding, where particularly with respect to a line of credit, you can use our line of credit in order to make sure that you have the cash necessary in order to execute a project to help your business, and you can repay the line of credit using the proceeds of that reimbursement that you receive from the city or the county or the state or whoever you're in a relationship with, through which you have availability to money, but only after the money has actually been spent, and then you get reimbursed for it. So we do a lot of that kind of cash flow management financing through our line of credit. Yes.
Perfect. Um, Brad, before you jump into this, I'll take a second, I think, to address it as well. But Katie in the chat is asking, do you routinely advertise grant opportunities, and are they federally based? Katie, I'll just share that at the Cook County Small Business Source, we routinely share grant opportunities, whether they're federal opportunities, local, things that are available just for Cook County residents. So I definitely encourage you to visit our website. I'll drop in the chat so everyone can access that. And we also are really just proud to partner with partners such as Allies for Community Business. So Brad, I'll pass it off to you to kind of expand on that.
Yeah, same. So I just checked. Right now, we've got 4 different grant opportunities posted at A4CB .org/grants. And so I think 2 things. One, you can bookmark that site and we'll post there anything we know about from anyone. And that's whether or not A4CV is the grant administrator of that particular grant opportunity. A lot of times we are, but whatever. Like if you're interested in a grant and we know about it, we'll post it right there. And 2, if you're interested, you're welcome to not have to remember to like go check a bookmark. We do email distributions twice a month, and we will always highlight new grant opportunities through that. So at a4cb.org on our homepage, you can sign up for that email blast if you'd like. Those are 2 ways on top of what Mercedes just described through the source to stay on top of potential grant opportunities.
We have another question that came through the chat here. Jim is asking, can you discuss the security position of Allies for Community Business if we have an existing bank line?
Yeah, so we will always be subordinated to kind of bank financing. And what that means in practice for those who haven't been in that situation before, we've got multiple debt providers, is that if you've got traditional bank financing, whether it be a line of credit or a straight loan or whatever it might be, they're going to sit in first position. So if something happens, they're going to get paid first. We would be underneath that and we'll record it as such so that we never sort of get between you and your bank. Banks are good partners of ours. We don't want to do that, for one. And two, that'd be terrible for you because then you got to like worry about people yelling at you from your bank. You don't need that. And we don't want to put you in that position. So, I think in the way that I described before, the UCC filing, that's Universal Commercial Code filing, um, that is essentially our mechanism to communicate to other lenders that A4CB has made a loan to you. And so anybody who's going to make a loan to you in the future after that will just by sort of routine go check and see who's made a UCC filing. And that way they'll think, okay, well, they've got a loan with the A4CB. It doesn't mean we sit in front of them. It just means that they're aware that we have a loan. That's what filing functionally does. But no, we're not gonna get between you and your bank because nobody wants that.
Perfect. I don't see any open questions currently in the Q&A. Just a reminder, you all, definitely encourage you to drop in any questions that you might have for Brad or for Ash. Ash, I actually have a question for you. I know you work in procurement with a lot of businesses that are seeking to leverage opportunities with local government. How could you see a program like revenue-based financing being a benefit for these individuals?
That's actually a really good question. It's definitely going to benefit entrepreneurs and small businesses. And Brad brought up a great point at the beginning. Net margin is the stepping stone to enter this program because it's a security blanket for both the lenders and the businesses themselves. It's a good program bridging immediate needs for businesses where you have intensive cash requirements, but also generate a healthy cash flow. It's really good fit for um, specialty trades businesses within construction industry. I think it's a really good program.
Yeah, and Ash, I'll add to that that in the particular case where we're looking at an entrepreneur who's either looking to be a prime to the county or a sub to somebody else who is the prime to the county for a particular contract, in most cases, you as an entrepreneur are going to be asked to go buy your own supplies, pay your own staff, and then you're going to get paid later and you're going to invoice for that. Well, you got to have the money from somewhere in order to do all of that kind of upfront financing that will eventually get reimbursed to you. And whether that's revenue-based financing or a line of credit, that's going to be entirely based on your situation. We'll happily work that through with you. But we quite frequently, when entrepreneurs have that kind of procurement opportunity, whether with the county or otherwise, but particularly with all the great opportunities the county provides, we help entrepreneurs to make sure you've got that cash flow in order to get started. And then once you get reimbursed by your procurement partner, then you just pay down that inflow that you borrowed from us, and you're back to where you started. But you didn't have to have all that money kind of in your own pocket to start with in order to get started.
It's a great program to bridge the cash to cash cycle.
Yeah.
I think the gentleman brought up a good example about this BIF program. A lot of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, a lot of investors position their businesses to acquire long-term assets, fixed assets within a TIF zone under this BIF program. I think this financing program you offer, Brad, it's a really good opportunity for those entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, think about it this way. If you're an entrepreneur and you've got a big opportunity, but you have to have cash in order to take care of the opportunity, we're here to help you think through what is the appropriate size, what is the appropriate structure, and what is the appropriate price for that cash in order for you then to evaluate, okay, is this worth it? Like, is the opportunity, is the upside worth it for me to take on the debt in order to be able to exploit the opportunity? If it is, great, do it. And if it isn't, don't. But we're here to help one way or another.
Perfect. Um, just have one open question regarding follow-up. And I know we have 5 minutes left, so I'll just give a moment. If you have any additional questions, I encourage you just to drop them in the chat, drop them in the Q&A, and they can be fielded live. But I'll also just say, follow up post this webinar. We will distribute the presentation decks and then also the webinar recording to all that registered. So thank you for attending and watching it live. You'll also receive the recording, kind of be able to watch it back and get a little bit greater detail perspective on some of the things shared today. I'll just also share, and I'll give Ash and Brad you a little bit time to share follow-up information. Actually, I have a few more questions that came in. I'll field those real quick. Nancy is asking for Ash. Does Ash help with getting contracts? In her particular situation, Nancy has a tire shop and she has her MBE, WBE certification, but she's having a hard time finding procurement opportunities.
Thank you for that question. I think the always this question when people ask is the first step is to register within the vendor portal, Bonfire, and register within the B2G now for compliance, and then monitor the Bonfire for opportunities that you believe it's a good fit for you. I mean, business is risky, as we all know, and procurement as it's a business at the end of the day. So I would highly encourage everyone who wants to participate in any procurement activities with the Cook County to finish the registration with the Bonfire and B2G and monitor for any upcoming solicitation. And of course, back to her question, there's an opportunity for everyone.
Thanks, Ash. Okay, and with that, we don't have any current open questions. So if you all want to just maybe share an end note, how to follow up if anyone has particular questions. And also as a reminder, we'll send this to all following the webinar as well.
I'll just add briefly that I'm really appreciative of, first of all, the county's partnership. The county is an amazing partner for A4CB and frankly for all entrepreneurs throughout the county, in my opinion. And secondly, always appreciative to all of the entrepreneurs who took your extremely valuable time. Let's be real here. This is the most scarce asset you have is your own time. And you decided to invest that in trying to figure out how to work better with the county and Allies for Community Business in order to help grow your business. So just appreciate you spending that time with us, and we're eager to help you in whatever way we can.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity as well. I echo what Brad said. County always is eager to expand opportunities for small vendor community and grow the supplier diversity program. We're actually very excited about FY26. We're putting in place a lot of programs. It's going to be proactive, actively positioning these vendors to be more competitive and ultimately increase the winning probability. I think this financing program is a great fit for the small vendor community within Cook County, and I'm highly grateful for the Bureau of Economic Development for opening up this opportunity for us to engage with the small vendor community as well and learn about these programs. So thank you all.
And I'm gonna close us out and I'm gonna say thank you all. Everyone knows I'm big on collaborations. Thank you, Brad, for joining us and giving us such valuable information. Thank you, Ash, as well. I hope you all enjoyed this wonderful panel from Miss Teresa, I believe that was her name, who has a question in regards to her tire shop and finding bid opportunities. I'm gonna do a shameless plug. I was only able to give 5 minutes for the source. I'll always say sign in to the source if you need any assistance or coaching, advising. We have great advisors and organizations who we are partnered with who do assist small businesses with becoming also MWBEs who assist you with filling out that paperwork, who assist you with finding those contracts as well. So you're not in this alone. As you can see, there's a great connection, a great network of small business organizations. There's a great network within this small business ecosystem throughout the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, and throughout Cook County. So we are here to help you. You have all of our contact information. If you want to learn more about the source, I believe I dropped our website in the chat. Again, is www.cookcountysmallbiz.org. You have Brad's information as well as Ash, and we are all here to assist you. Thank you so much, Mercedes, for hosting us and taking over the questions and answers. We had a lot of great questions. So I hope you all have wonderful takeaways. And again, you will be getting the slide deck once this is over, okay? All right. Thank you all for joining us. Stay connected with us. Join our newsletter if you would like to learn more. We have a lot of great webinar Wednesdays that are hosted the last Wednesday of every month moving forward in 2026. So check us out and you can get some more great information. Check out our events page, see what else we have coming up, and stay connected to us. Have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you all. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.